lifted me to higher ground. Let me thank to you forevermore. Show you what's behind heaven's door. And when the fires and the winds are raging, and the darkness swallows up the sun, rest assured I will give some holy water, exorcise your demons. But the hell and back, baby.
Hey, how you doing out there? It's the Bob's on Bob's Blues in the News, coming to you directly from Atlanta, Georgia, off the cuff. Yeah, I've been to hell and back a couple of times. My new tune I just released called Exorcise, not exercise, exorcise your demons, meaning we got to get rid of all that negative force out there, because a lot of negative forces out there in the atmosphere, on the planet, everywhere you look, So the children of light, we got to come together. I mean, I hope you among the children of light, right? What do you mean the children of light? Well, I see that's what it is. It's either on the light side of the light or you're on the side of the darkness. There are like two major forces at play, the yin and the yang, male and female. Yeah, I know about that. But they're also spiritually and kinetically, physically, negative forces and positive forces, like electricity, right? It's everywhere in the physical world and in the spiritual world, negative forces and positive forces. What you want to do is work with the positive forces and do everything you can to put down the dark forces. Now, am I speaking Greek or what? I mean, it should be obvious. But you have to come at it with one caveat. One thing you got to have if you want to make sure you're on the side of light. You have to believe. Yes, children, you have to believe in the divine, in God, and one God. Now, I don't know, Christians, I might believe in three. Islamists, I'm not really sure about this Allah guy. But anyway, it's one God, and he is all-encompassing. Now, there are many ways to heaven, okay? So I don't want to get into theology too much. But basically, that's the basic. You have to believe in one God and a divine plan. You have to believe there's something bigger than you are. And you have to realize that God is jealous, right? So if you go and say, well, maybe there's a sun god. I see the sun is out there in the sky. It's very powerful. Where would we be without the light of the sun? As I'm looking out my window right now, a nice hot day in Atlanta, and the sun is shining bright and hot. So people, will say, well, that may must be a force. We should recognize that force and sort of pay it homage. Well, see, that's a trap, and there are a lot of forces out there that you can do that with, You can be an egotist, and you can be a narcissist. And you can believe, like, I'm a self-made man. I did it all myself. There's nothing but me and my energy, and you worship yourself. There are people like that. So there are all kind of forces that you can worship. But I'm just saying, if you really want to be on the side of light, you have to believe in one force that controls everything. That's all company. And if you really get into physics, I mean, I see the scientists are coming more and more into that recognition that there is a divine order. Well, maybe they won't say the divine, maybe they won't put that in their scientific paper, but there is a all-encompassing force. In fact, Einstein was looking for this, right? This all-encompassing equation that would tie everything together. And basically what that is God. Okay? So why am I talking to you so much about this religious aspect of things, this belief in a higher authority? Usually I'm out here talking politics all the time. I'm not really getting in. Well, I talk religion too. I mean, I talk a little bit of everything, I'm a musician, artist, whatever, troubadour, whatever you want to call me. But, I dabble in a lot of things. But my main focus is to bring people together. I try to do it through the music, you know what I mean? I try to do it through my art, but make them recognize there is a divine plan. So where am I going with this? Well, because I was I was in a discussion group, a local discussion group, and we talk politics about what's going on with Israel because I'm Jewish, or what's going on in Georgia and the rest of the world as far as the country goes, as far as the U.S. goes, as far as Israel goes. Because basically Israel and the United States are more or less joined at the hip, even though a lot of people think it's a bad thing. And there's even more conservatives now that thinks it's a bad thing, like Tucker Carlson, those people. But you have to realize these entities, these countries, these nations are joined at the hip because they believe in the same Judeo-Christian principles. Now, Europe used to be with us on this, Judeo-Christian principle traditions, but they're losing it to the jihadists, and they gave up on God a long time ago. I mean, the French Revolution basically killed God. And, of course, the English have the English church, but nobody really goes to the English church anymore, I don't believe. So they don't really have a religion. They just have, I don't know what they have as far as culture goes. They have pretty good beer in the pubs, but I ain't understand the pubs are not like they used to be. You don't have as many pubs anymore because you get a different culture in there. These jihadists, well, they say they don't drink, but a lot of them, those guys who knocked down the towers, 9/11, they were supposed to be really religious zealots, right? Coming doing jihad, knocking down the towers of the United States. Maybe the biggest attack that's ever been done on our soil, actually. So you think, they're all religious, and they probably went to the mosque before they did the terror attack on the Twin Towers and prayed all night. Nah, they went to the bars. They went to the girly clubs, the strip joints, and got high before it, So it's just all, give me a break. That's all I'm saying. You have to be careful of the truth because there's so much fake news out there. So I'm not really sure where I'm going with this. It gets funny. I get carried away. It's true. But I'm just trying to, separate the light from the darkness. That's all I'm trying to do. So anyway, so I'm saying that, there's got to be a way that we can get out of this mess. And we have to realize who we're dealing with. And that, I was talking about this group I'm in, WhatsApp group. And we're talking about what's going on in the world, the anti-Semitism, the wokeness. And they were talking about what's going on with what's this new party? Democratic Socialist Party of America, the commies, the American commies, who have been in the news everywhere. I mean, there were these wacko jobs, these crazy people, and some of them look pretty, and they smile nice, like Mamdani, and, and Piker, they all look like hunks, and some of them dress nicely, they play the role, but they're really snakes in the grass. And so we was talking about what's going on, like here in Atlanta, and it seems like the DSA has moved in to Atlanta, and they've set up an office. And they set up an office in Little Five Points, which is a place when I was younger, I used to hang out a lot of clubs, cafes. All the hippies went there back in the day. And there are shops typical for, if you deal in drugs, there's probably a lot of drug dealing going on down there. But they set up their office in that area, Little Five Points here in Atlanta. And somebody was saying, it's really dark place to go these days because she'll go down there and she'll see all these girls with, I got to answer that phone. It's a business call. Wait, hold on. So where am I? You might still call? Yeah. Okay. So back. See, I do financing, by the way. I'll take a time for a little sponsor break. I do financing for businesses. So if you're out there and you need some funding, capital, long green for your business, let me know. Look me up, First Capital Source. That's 1stcapitalsource.com. My email is bob@firstcapitalsource.com. You can call me directly. I'll give you my phone here directly online, which I don't always do, but it's 404-388 0089. That's 404-388-0089. Call me anytime and help you get your funding you need. Whatever your situation, I can usually find it for you. So anyway, back to my story about the DSA moving into Atlanta, and they set up their offices in this area, little 5 Points, which is sort of a shady kind of area of town. Kids hang out. You can see there's a lot of drugs being done down there, a lot of drug trades. But somebody was saying in the chat that she goes down there and she sees all these girls with tattoos, but not only, roses and funny tattoo and common tattoo, but like satanic stuff. She sees a lot of satanic images down there, more and more. So we're getting into this dark period where the occult is becoming very popular. And the young girls, they're just enchanted. They go to school and they learn about communism, how bad everything is, how bad America is. They totally destroy the idea of God, but they have to have something to believe in, right? So they go to the dark side, into the occult. And a lot of it is just, not serious. It's a joke, right? But it can get very dangerous because there is a dark spiritual force, right? So you might say, like you're talking about, in the Bible, for example, that's Baal, This was a problem for the early Jews. It was different back in the day, and for some reason they had this drive to worship idols. They said after prophecy ended, they didn't have this drive anymore. But back in the day, a lot of people had this drive, and even though they had received the 10 Commandments from God, they've been blessed by God, been chosen by God, and they went through the Red Sea, they escaped Egypt, got their freedom, received the 10 Commandments, got into the promise. Still, they had this urge after Joshua, and he conquered the land, they started worship idols again. So they had Baal, was this big a Canaanite god, basically. The Canaanites were pagans, and and so you can have this statue of Baal or whatever. It's just a statue, it has no force with itself. But these images, and when you start paying it some mind, when you start acting like it really is a god, then you yourself, out of your free will, okay, free will comes into play here, right? You start bringing these evil forces, these dark forces to play, You conjure up these negative forces by your actions. And this is when it gets dangerous, okay? I remember when I was traveling around Europe as a musician. I was doing a lot of busking on the street, playing small clubs and stuff like that as well, but I got hooked up to these guys from Sweden. And one guy had this long blonde hair, nice looking guy, and so I started playing with a lot of his friends. He didn't play any instruments. He was always reading this big book we was looking at all the time. And in fact, I had a couple of those big books. And so I started playing with some of these guys that were hanging around him, and we all got a house. Actually, we got a house in a little town outside of Paris, like north of Paris. And the name of the village was Caen, like, Cain and Abel. Okay, name of the village. And we had this house, nice house. It looks like just been redone and everything. But it was on this street called Rue d'Enfer, if my French is correct. It means the street of hell, the road of hell. And I said, why did they call this street that? And I heard the rumors saying, well, during the Second World War, a lot of people got killed on that street. Maybe in that same house. I don't know. The house looked pretty new to me when we lived there. But anyway, it's come to find out this guy with the long blonde hair had made his own little room, his den, upstairs in the attic. And I visited it once, and he had a big chair, like a wizard would have, and he had these books. And come to find out, he was studying Aleister Crowley. Now, Aleister Crowley was a guy who became infamous in the early part of the 20th century because he did magic. Now, I'm not talking about white magic. I'm talking about black magic, because he was studying the religions of Egypt, ancient Egypt. And that's what these books are all about this ancient Egyptian occult and how they worshiped like the god of Horus. I think was one of the big gods. And I think he had one book simply on Horus, Horus, I believe. And so a lot of stuff weird was starting to happen. And he was trying to manipulate things, through this magic. And they would take acid trips and then paint funny pictures, as well. And while they were on this acid trip. And that's just one weird thing. A lot of weird things happen. So I didn't stay around too much longer. I almost got signed to Decca Records at the same time, but it didn't work out. And I'm so glad it didn't work out because maybe if I had, it would have been under his influence. And then I would have been beholden to go in his direction. Oh my gosh. He was sort of like a warlock, So anyway, I'm saying it does exist out there. Just be careful, people, when you deal with these dark forces. Anyway, this is Bob on Bob's Blues and the News. And I'll just go on out with my Exorcise Your Demons song again, because we got to get rid of these demons.
Rest assured I will steal some holy water, exorcise your demons. I've got to low down on the dark side. Know what you sacrifice for fun. I'll never stop your life, yeah. I'll exercise your demons. I know well, baby, you've been insecure. But my love's enough that you can endure. The truth is there in front of your face. I'll be your angel, baby, your saving grace. And when the fires and the winds are raging, and the darkness swallows up the sun, rest assured I will steal some holy water, exorcise your demons. And when the fires and the winds are raging, and the darkness swallows up the sun, rest assured I will steal some holy water and exorcise your demons.